Does it sound like chaos? Are we here or are we live? Hey, we already have 8 people here. That's really excellent. That's great news. I have a donut on my head, in case you didn't notice. It matches my food, which I think it's very important for one to match their food and their hats, obviously. I mean, it's pretty much identical. So this one looks lighter right now, but they're almost the same color if I didn't have a giant thing on me. Folks, let me know where you're at if you're here and you can see the chat, which you can see, I think, on tablet or if you're on the YouTube website. But if you're watching an embed, you can't do that. And that also lets me know you can actually hear me and the audio isn't broken, which is very helpful. Oh, good. All right. Amanda is here. Amanda is alive. This is very exciting. That means we have at least one more person here. Hi, folks. Well, a lot happened this week in the economy. And I guess I'm excited to talk about the economics of the real economy and what happened this week. But I also said this would be a special live stream and that I would talk about Animal Crossing's their Sal Jones stock market, spelled STALK, which is, I think, very interesting. And there was actually a market panic in it this week. So I think that's kind of fun. All right, people like the donut hat. That's good. I feel like I should put it a little more forward. Otherwise, I have to keep leaning down for you to see it. And, you know, I don't think you're here to actually talk about personal finance. I think you're here to see the donut hat. Everything else is gravy. So, how are folks doing? How is it going? I just want to show off the donut and how well they match again. This was actually voted on by people on Twitter. We put out a poll and to try to figure out which donut to do. And I didn't think people were going to vote on the donut that looks like the donut hat because they didn't know that. But they did. So, yeah, it won pretty overwhelmingly. I think some people were a little confused by the fact that salted tahini and pineapple pizza donut were things. The pineapple pizza donut is vaguely intriguing to me. It has tomato chutney on the top, and then the cheese that like goes around it is made of pine nuts, I think. Anyway, it's kind of intriguing. Claire says, I'm kind of sick of hearing about Animal Crossing, but the donut hat is worth it. All right, fair. Well, we'll talk about the actual economy too, and not just talk about the Animal Crossing. And Denise said, I'm here to be distracted from my personal finance. So yes, we'll talk about both. It'll be a little bit for everyone. Also, thing I should say, I should move this out of the way so that we have official logo in the background, is that today is actually a special fundraiser because it is the fund drive for my home station, X-Ray FM, which is a community-run radio station here in Portland, operates 4 different signals, and it's fund drive right now, and it's a really hard time to fundraise. I don't know if you maybe heard about that. So my hair is screwed up from moving this donut around. Don't mind me. Just grooming myself on camera. And one of the reasons that I'm doing this live stream as a fundraiser, even though it's a weird time, is I realized that, so I got my stimulus check last week and I decided that I was going to donate half of it. And I decided to donate part of that to my home station, which is community-run media is so freaking important right now. Something like 90% of the media is actually only owned by 3 different corporations, and that's for the entire world. And media conglomerates are a big part of the reason that getting information is both hard and overwhelming right now. It's also because the information is hard and overwhelming, but having community-run radio is like more important than ever right now because media controlled Buy your own community means that you get updates about what's happening in your community, stay home orders that impact your community. Rather than being overwhelmed by the whole large picture of it, you learn about, where the senior hours are at the local grocery store. And not to mention, it's incredibly important to the local musician economy. So one of the things that X-Ray does is manage to continue having 168 hours a week of local broadcasting, and we don't syndicate anything that doesn't come from Portland originally. And that means that all of our music is being spun by DJs, local musicians, a lot of which are out of work right now. So it's just a big privilege right now to be able to connect with people using the radio. And so I know most people are not going to be in the position to donate, but everybody that shows up for this live stream, based on YouTube's counter during the live stream, I will donate $5 to X-Ray. And if you do have an ability to donate, it'd be really great because I'd love to see that total go up a little bit while it's happening. And that's would make me very happy. Anyway, we're going to talk about Animal Crossing. Apparently, we're going to talk about YNAB reconciliation, which is a hot topic. I did my YNAB reconciliation like 3 days ago, and it was because I finally got a refund back for a hotel for a trip I was supposed to be on next week in New York City. I was supposed to be in New York City next week, which numerous people told me to cancel in like mid-March, but I held out until the official lockdown had begun on like March 14th or whatever. But I'd already booked my hotel for that trip, and they really dragged their feet, despite the fact that no one can really fly in or out of New York, and obviously no one's staying in a hotel. They really dragged their feet on refunding us for a hotel stay that wasn't going to happen for another 6 weeks. And it came this week, and I was like, oh, I want to put that money back in my YNAB budget. So that's why I reconciled mine. So other things that happened this week. For folks in Germany, a lot of freelancers got their payments. So essentially, the German government was running a program that was financial support where you could essentially say how much you needed. And it was for small business owners and freelancers. Freelancer is like, I think, more common, especially among people that are not originally German there, because it is one of the easiest visas to get in Germany. And not a lot of other countries have this, which is essentially if you can prove you have enough work as a freelancer, you can get a German work visa, which very few countries have. And but they have been under lockdown. They're actually, I think, going to release it. But a lot of people's financial support came in this week. And last week in the US, a lot of people's stimulus checks came in this week. So, yeah, it's going to be very exciting. Claire said, I'm waiting for a cabin rental refund that I requested almost a month ago. They said 4 to 6 weeks, but I'm still annoyed/worried it won't come. Yeah, I think so it was like a group room, and I was not the one doing the negotiating, which was very nice. But I believe part of what helped was that we threatened to contest it with the credit card company. And I think that scared the hotel enough to like finally do that. Yeah. Amanda said that she hasn't also gotten confirmation of her hotel cancellation. Yeah. It's a lot going on that right now. Claire said she was intending to do her YNAB reconciliation, but instead is on Etsy looking at donut accessories, which I think is completely fair. It's a very reasonable way to spend your time. So yes, this donut accessory, one, business write-off, as we've discussed on previous live streams. If you can justify that a normal person would not wear clothing outside the house as like everyday wear, then you can write it off as a business expense. And while I might be someone that would wear a donut on my head outside the house, it is business related enough for me that I believe the IRS will accept that it's probably a business write-off. But it's very excellent. It's from Jess Paul Art on Etsy. So this was part of my stimulus money. So the way that I divided it was I got $1,200 because my income was vastly under $75,000 last year. And I was very lucky that I was one of the people where it seemed to go seamlessly. It showed up April 14th in my bank account. And I haven't spent all of it yet, but I've allocated it in YNAB, and half of it is going to charity or mutual aid. I think about 500 is going to go to charity, some of which will go to X-Ray for people showing up on this live stream. And then some of that will go to mutual aid, which is just like directly either paying into mutual aid societies or just like straight up, like there's a couple people I've Venmoed to help with groceries and stuff like that. And then the other half is going to small businesses. I did actually buy a CSA share with a friend's farm, and I could have justified that as part of the small businesses because I did explicitly partially do it to support her small business. But since it's food and it's something that, you know, is obviously going to lower the amount that I spend on vegetables and groceries when it happens, then I'm probably going to do that. Camille says, thank you for your stream and letting us know about the X-Ray Fund Drive. I'm going to donate what I can. Thank you so much, Camille. I should have put this up on the screen. But one of the cool things with the X-Ray is that they have these really fabulous socks if you donate. And I think you get them if you become a $5 or a $10 a month member. I should know that off the top of my head, but I don't. But the socks are like, yeah, they're pretty great. They don't fit my normal like pastel cat aesthetic, but they're like punk rock but cool. But if you work in an industry like tech, you probably have like way too many novelty socks because they're like the hot thing for conferences. But if you work in, I don't know, nonprofits or less whimsical industries, you probably don't get socks at conferences, and then maybe you need some cool radio novelty socks. So yeah, they are excellent. Nina, who works at X-Ray and has been working her butt off on this. I think you made the socks transparent. Are you trying to make them pastel? Anyway, the socks are really rad. I don't normally get like sign up for perks when I donate for various organizations because I'm like, I literally don't need another tote bag in my life. Like, one, you're not even allowed to bring them to the grocery stores anymore. And two, I definitely don't need another t-shirt that I will never wear because I don't wear t-shirts. But those socks, I think I might pick them as a perk. I'm a big fan of usable swag too. Like that's what Ashley said in the comments. Like, I think it's like frustrating when you donate and then you're like, cool, I got this thing that should I put it on my fridge and for how long? Okay, cool. So yes. Lauren says, I work at a nonprofit and I have to say we once got novelty socks. That's awesome, Lauren. I have not gotten novelty socks for working in a nonprofit. But maybe the tides have changed. What were the specific reasons that you got novelty socks? Were they like for going to a conference? Were they also from a fund drive? Because X-Ray is obviously a nonprofit and this is our fund drive perk. So Amanda said that she just donated. Thank you so much. We should probably put the thermometer back up. Anyway, what other things happened this week in economics? So we had a little bit of a wild market situation going on in the US. Ooh, we went up, I think, right? Aaron, did you keep track of what it said on the screen at the beginning of the stream? I'm going to say it went up because it looks like a different number. Well, let's see if we can cross 43,000 before I donate. So $82 more. If we can do that over the next hour, I'm going to feel really, really good about that. So, and if people become a member at $5 a month, that counts as $50. So then that'll really pump it up quite a lot. Anyway, things that happened this week. So Another thing that happened this week is in the United States. I'd previously talked about the Small Business Administration loans, payroll protection loans, which essentially were meant to go out to small businesses and essentially give them a loan that could be 100% forgiven. And what those were going to do was essentially completely forgive this loan, put cash into small businesses so that they can keep employees on. However, as of this week, we now have over 25 million Americans that have filed new unemployment claims in the past 6 weeks, which is staggering. We're pretty sure that within a couple weeks, we are going to be above the highest rate of unemployment in the United States since the Great Depression, which the Great Depression's peak was at 25%. So we're pretty sure that we will be at around 25% unemployment if things continue as they have within a couple weeks or late summer as firms close. So part of the goal of this plan was to incentivize people, businesses keeping their workers on, but they turned out to be a mess to implement. I talked to at least 15 different business owners from all different industries that have been trying to apply to this. I also was applying for it, and I have talked to our banker at least once a day, every single day on the phone for the past 2 weeks for the small community bank we're at, and he has called every other client that he has that has a small business account, essentially. And the first round of money, the application had gotten to the point where it had changed the night before it was set to open. And then the day that it opened, all of the big banks' websites just completely shut down because you had to apply through a bank. And the other kind of key issue was that most people had to apply through a bank they already had a relationship with. But if you're a business that only had a new business account, like you didn't have a long working relationship, they might not be willing to lend you money. And they know that even though this is 100% forgivable by government money, the banks know that they're on hook for the loan if all of the I's aren't dotted and all of the T's aren't crossed. That's also, it's the most loans they've ever processed. Talking to my community banker and another banker in Minnesota, they both said that they had processed more loans in the past month than they had processed in the previous decade. And, they were working around the clock. My bank has all of their employees. They moved employees from the phone answering service and trained them all on loan processing and how to get information into the SBA. And they're coming in at 9 p.m. on East Coast time so that the second they open at midnight, they can try to beat other banks to get applications in because the money is essentially first come, first serve. It's been extremely confusing. All of these banks went down. They kept changing the form. And in the end, a lot of businesses that were not small businesses got them. A bunch of publicly traded corporations, which means they're large enough to be listed on the stock exchange, which is pretty much the definition of not small business. Some of them were like Steak and Shake, the very large restaurant chain in the US. They got loans. A ton of really big businesses had gotten some of this loan money. And even though it was a staggering amount of money that the federal government in the US had allocated towards this program, turned out that it all went away really quickly. And the money ran out within, I think, 2 days in the first round. And it took a couple weeks for the Republicans and the Democrats to get it together to do a second round, because obviously doing stimulus bills is scary because they do have to do what's called either monetize the debt, which means print money, or U.S. Treasury bonds have to be appealing enough that people want to buy them. And if you don't know what I'm talking about when I say treasury bonds, let me know and I will explain it. So anyway, it was supposed to open this week. It took until Wednesday or Thursday night for them to, the SBA to officially say, okay, it's passed in Congress on Wednesday night. Thursday, the SBA said, we'll open on Friday. Everybody thought it was going to open on Friday around 9 a.m. Eastern time, noon Pacific. And then at the last minute, the SBA said, yeah, we think we'll open on Monday night. So that's one of the things that happened. Lauren says the novelty socks were for a big volunteer appreciation event. They were for the volunteers, but we got extras. Yeah, those volunteer extras are how you get the good swag. Almost all of my workout shirts are volunteer shirts from nonprofits I've worked at. Like the vast majority of them. Oh my gosh, we are so close. We had more donations. I don't know if they're from this live stream or not. If it was you should comment and get credit in the comments, because I just have a live feed of the total. So I don't know if they're from this live stream. Although if it is from this live stream, and you donate, you should give me credit in the notes field, because I don't know, it'll make me feel good. But we're $7 away from crossing 43,000, which is very exciting. I think I will eat the donut when we cross 43,000. So if you want, this is a strawberry milk donut, which I find very exciting, because strawberry milk is a phrase that's used on a bunch of like Korean and Japanese clothing that doesn't seem to correspond to anything. It just seems to be a cool phrase that they use. Like quite often they'll have these like oversized hoodies that say strawberry milk just written on them. And so I don't know if this is going to taste like cute Korean clothes with weird phrases, but yeah. Ashley says that working on the customer service side in state government, unemployment is a cluster for everyone right now. Phone lines keep going down and instructions sent out are unclear. Ooh, do we want to talk about unemployment? Because I'm happy to talk about unemployment, because I have been doing a lot of reporting on it, and it is a cluster. And I've been on both sides of it. Like, I haven't had to apply for it, but I've been talking to a lot of people that have been applying for it, and I've had to see it from the employer side. And it's just been, there's been a lot. My donut is slipping down. We really need, this Etsy shop had so many food themed hats. Even just donut themed hats, I really struggled with which one to get. By the way, I cut my own bangs today after watching a tutorial on YouTube, which I've done before, but I don't know if I've ever actually Googled it. I usually just like do it in a hostel bathroom when I'm traveling and I can't take it anymore. But I feel okay about them. I'm not going to say they're like super even, but I have a donut on my head, so it really distracts from anything wrong with my bangs, which I think is like a solid plan. All right, so the worst part about unemployment office, it sends out a lot of letters and a lot of alerts to have folks apply for the extension. Yeah, every state has been different in how they've been approaching it, because there's been, like, they got this federal mandate, but none of the states actually had a system to support any of the plans. And they were still as late as like 2 weeks after the stimulus had passed and made all of these new things, like people were going to get an extra $600 a week. Freelancers were able to apply. You were able to apply if you weren't actively looking for work, which normally you're required to actively be looking for work. In certain cases, they extended the length of what temporarily unemployed means, which temporarily unemployed or furloughed essentially means in most cases you don't have to keep looking for work. Whereas normally you would have to, like, you just have to stay in touch with your employer and be available to like come back to work if they can have you back on. But in most states that only lasts 35 days. And it was extended by this, but there's just no system in place for that. The whole thing is that there's no system in place for this. And also all of the systems are built on COBOL, which is like the original programming language from like the late 80s, early 90s that all government software is built under. Correct me if I've slightly misstated that. But it's just that people that program in COBOL are not like abundant. And so any fast fixes to this technology, it's just been... The unemployment situation has been a nightmare. I would also say that, like, I had specific questions on the employer side where I had received forms for people that I probably shouldn't have. And I just couldn't get anybody a hold of to talk to. And that's how, and that was on the employer side. And there's far less employers trying to talk to unemployment than there are employees. So It was really awful. We crossed 43,000. Also, it's a really nice number, 43,000. Okay, well, I'm going to try the donut, and then we're going to talk about Animal Crossing. Ooh. Ooh. It's so pretty. All right, should we do like one more? We got to put the donut right next to the other donut. Is it a good likeness?
It's so good.
All right, let's try this. All I know is that it's called strawberry milk. Also, I don't have a napkin, so. Oh, God. This is really good. Thank you, Lauren, for making the donation that made me try this donut. Sorry, I was reading the chat. That's why I just went silent. I forget that I'm the only thing, like, happening on the screen, and then I just go quiet while I'm reading things. Denise was saying that the enrollment process was really easy and that they mailed it in multiple languages with phone. So I haven't actually heard of a single state where people have been able to get through on the phone. So I have heard of places where they have better documentation about how to do this. Yes, Ashley is pointing out that I never have a napkin. Part of the problem is I don't like our napkins, and they don't fit the aesthetic, so, I don't think to add them. But you'd think that my experience eating donuts on camera by this point, I would know this. I can't tell what's going on with the sprinkles. They're like tiny dots. This is just like a regular donut on the inside. This is vegan too, by the way, if you're like new here. The place that I get it from is entirely vegan. I don't think I like the crunchy sprinkles. The flavor is incredible, and the sprinkles look really cute, but I feel like they're very hard. It could be because I had to buy this morning, and it's now like 5:30 p.m. All right. I feel okay about this. Should I dunk it in the coffee? And yes, I am drinking coffee at this hour. I'm not saying it's a good choice. So the biggest and most confusing part for most people with unemployment, if you're kind of falling in the traditional camp, it hasn't been terrible. But, it's good with the coffee. This is really good with the coffee. It's like, it kind of melts. It melts the top, and then you get like a very creamy. Yep. That's my advice. If you happen to get this donut, dump it in coffee. I'm going to eat all. Normally, I like eat the donut in 2 chunks when I run out of things to say, but I'm going to eat the whole donut now. Yep. Yes, I could get a handkerchief embroidered with little Pushins. Obviously, I need to do that. Do you think I can get someone on Etsy to make that with me and make that for me and spend some of my stimulus money on it? I spent my stimulus money on very ridiculous stuff. But, my rule was get stuff from small businesses. And I tried to get stuff from either friends' businesses or things that I'd been thinking about getting for a long time, but always felt kind of like, oh, this is a little more that I like want to spend, or like, oh, I might be able to get this like cheaper if I get it off Amazon than like handmade. And so, yeah, I tried to like buy stuff that I've been thinking about for quite a while from small businesses. But I did like buy one jumpsuit that I 100% just saw on an Instagram ad and was like, hey, it's a Black-owned small business and it's a cool jumpsuit. I'll buy it. And it was a hit on the internet. People really like the jumpsuit. So I don't know if it's a hit in real life because no one has seen it in real life because I have not left the house or seen anyone. So Yeah, you think I could get a discount? I have not. I will also say I have not been requesting discounts or like gifted merch from anyone for anything. I did get an offer of a like sponsor for the show that was like a financial thing that I ended up being like, I feel like it's unethical to advertise for you right now. You're not a bad company, because I have like a, there's a lot of financial institutions I will not work with if they want to sponsor my show. Like crypto, I won't do crypto. I won't do payday lenders. I usually won't work with credit consolidation companies unless a nonprofit credit consolidation company that isn't evil wants to work with me, but they don't tend to have podcast advertising budgets. But I had one. I will not mention what it is because I would actually be willing to work with them at some other time. But it was not a good advertisement to be advertising in the current situation. And I was like, you could keep your, couple $100 or whatever. So, folks that have seen the jumpsuit are supportive of the jumpsuit. Yeah. It's a good jumpsuit. It's a good jumpsuit. I will say that a lot of people are very concerned about the peeing in jumpsuits, but like, I don't find it to be that much more annoying than wearing pants and peeing. So like, I normally wear skirts and I find pants to be slightly more annoying. And I don't really find jumpsuits to be that much more annoying. But I would say like now is the time to pee in a jumpsuit if there was ever a time, because even though you might be getting top partially naked, you're only getting partially naked in your own bathroom, most likely. And if you're working from home or not working from home and stuck in your house, then wearing a jumpsuit is relatively easy right now because, it's not that like awkward. I'm taking a jumpsuit off in a public restroom or whatever. So I have a lot of unitards, and those I find particularly frustrating to deal with in public restrooms, which I don't really view the same as jumpsuits simply because they're so spandex heavy. I have one that is a David Bowie one that I sewed that's like asymmetrical and it has all these things hanging off the side. And I don't think I have a picture of it available easily. But it's a very it's David Bowie Ziggy Stardust jumpsuit. And that one is also because I'm always wearing like 10-inch platforms with it when I'm wearing it. It is so annoying to go pee in because the biggest worry is that when I'm taking off, I'm going to drag some of the like hand embroidered things hanging off my arm like into the toilet. It's just, it's definitely not my favorite. And then it's also like very tight spandex. So everything has to be just tucked in very well. Otherwise it's all very obvious. So Amanda Scott says that she's now looking for Might Morphin Power Ranger stuff on Etsy. Yeah, I wouldn't necessarily. This is one of those things, right? Like, I feel like there's a lot of people that are like, I should spend this on small businesses as to like stimulate the economy or whatever. And I only explicitly did that because one, I have no debt. I have an emergency fund, and I also have 3 jobs. So the chances that all 3 of my income sources dry up, like nothing is guaranteed, but it's less likely that I lose all my income sources at once, especially because I can't be laid off from one of my jobs because I'm my own boss. I am also, to be clear, not taking a salary from Oh My Dollar at all right now. I'm just paying contractors because my income's like dropped in half from Oh My Dollar. But luckily, Oh My Dollar doesn't hold any debt. And so we're, thanks to the generosity of the Personal Finance Society, I'm able to just kind of sustain it. So I think Will just arrived because Will said donut hat. Oh, that's the jumpsuit. That is, yes, that is the jumpsuit. Ashley, yes, that is what my older art was based off of. So I quite often dress up like David Bowie to teach personal finance, and I haven't been doing it as much because now I have a book about cats, so I kind of work the cat angle a lot more. But the main reason I did it was that the main reason I did it at all was because I had all these Bowie costumes. I led this big bike ride for 9 years in Portland called Bowie versus Prince. And it was thousands of people dressed as either David Bowie or Prince. And every year, because I'm very extra, had to make a new Bowie outfit to wear on the ride. And then I had 12 Bowie outfits, and I realized I should probably use them in some sort of useful way. So we don't have Bowie versus Prince anymore because that ride killed my life every June. Although we might actually have a socially distanced version during Pedalpalooza this year, but I don't know. It's going to be like, instead of having a large group ride, which is the stressful part for me, it's going to be just generally encouraging people to dress up as Bowie and Prince and ride around bikes in Portland from a safe distance. So Ashley noticed that Will is here. Yes, Will is my old editor, who has been really helpful and doing a lot of the work that X-Ray is doing. Speaking of how this is a fundraiser for X-Ray, Will, even though Will doesn't live here anymore, has been helping out a ton with partially the new daily news show that we have. So there's a daily news podcast called The Local, which is a thing that X-Ray started during the pandemic, which I feel like starting a daily podcast is hard enough anytime, and starting it when everybody has to work from their houses is even more notable. So, yes, Will is here and alive. Didn't die just because no longer on Oh My Dollar. We're also up to 36 views, which I am donating $5 to X-Ray for every person that is a live viewer. So, yeah, I will. How much is that? I can't do the math. 36 times 5. 180, apparently. So if we get up to 40 live viewers, that will be $200. I know how to do math. Anyway, very exciting. Thank you, people, for showing up. It's great because even if you just show up and then click out, X-Ray still gets $5. So I don't know. It's worth it. Feel free to tweet it out. Should we talk about Animal Crossing economics now? Because we have been talking about real world economics. And I know some folks said they're bored of Animal Crossing. But I find what happened in Animal Crossing this week very fascinating. So to be clear, I've only been doing research for the show and occasionally seeing it like over people's shoulder. Will, I know that 36 times 5 is not $10,000. I'm not that rich. I mean, I have $10,000, but definitely not giving it all to X-Ray. So Animal Crossing, I'm going to start by explaining what's going on. And if people don't know about Animal Crossing, let me know in the chat. Otherwise, I'm going to be explaining maybe more than what's going on. But Animal Crossing is essentially this game. It came out as a lot of the world was going into lockdown. Well, the new version of it came out. And it is on, I think, only Nintendo Switch, which is part of the reason that Switches in the real world started to become very expensive and very hard to find secondhand, because Animal Crossing as a game is one of those kind of real-time simulation games. So it's similar to The Sims or Second Life, where things move at the same pace that they do, roughly the same pace as they do in the real world. And everything in the game happens in real time. And you are a human creature, and you essentially go settle an island with a bunch of anthropomorphic animals. And the island is run by Tom Nook. And it's this interesting exploration of capitalism, because most of the point of the game is acquiring things. And the way that you earn money to acquire things is by collecting weeds and selling them back at the island store, and by planting trees, and some of which are money trees that you shake and then you get them. So essentially you collect stuff and then you sell it at the store. And the store is run by the small children, as far as we can tell, these two trash pandas, these adorable tiny raccoons who are clearly not old enough to be running a store in any way, They will buy anything you bring them, including like weeds, and they will give you different prices on a different day for what they're willing to buy. The big thing, though, is that they will buy turnips. This is where the stock market comes into play. So, once you progress to a certain level in the game, and there's no actual clear levels, it's just that you become able to buy more and more stuff. That's kind of how you level up in this game. What's nice about this, and one of the reasons it's been so appealing to people, one, it's very calming, and you don't really have to do anything. You can do nothing in the game. You could just lay on the ground and look at the stars. And it is a very aesthetically pleasing game. And it follows whatever your time zone is, it follows that time zone. So when sunset is happening in your time zone, sunset will be happening in the game. And everything happens in real time. So you can do what's called time travel if you want. We'll get into that because it does become important to the stock market. So once you do a certain kind of point in the game where you have acquired enough stuff, so to say, on your island, you then get visited by the daughter or the niece, some relative of, her name is Sally Mae. I don't know if you recognize that name, but Sally Mae is the name of the lending institution that most student loans go through in the United States. Sally Mae is the niece of Sow Jones. Sow Jones is a pig, and Sow Jones has a stock market, and it's spelled Stalk. And the stock market, which I will keep saying, even though it sounds exactly the same as stock market, but the stock market is essentially that she shows up on your island. Is she the granddaughter? Ashley says she's a granddaughter. I know she's a younger relative. Sow Jones has retired, is an old pig now, and has retired and no longer carries turnips around on her head. But her granddaughter, Sally Mae, shows up at your island and only shows up when it is actually Sunday morning in your time zone. And she'll just kind of wander around somewhere on the island and you have to go find her. So you're just like running around. When everybody in the game runs around, they just kind of like run around with their arms out at all times. That's what all the characters look like in the game. And you just have to run around the island until you find this pig with turnips in your head. And these turnips will go for a price. And whatever the price is on your island that Sunday is what the price is going to be for that week, because you can only buy them on Sunday morning. And the prices usually range somewhere between like 80 bells and 100 and something. If it's under 100, it's usually a good time to buy if you're into playing the stock market. So you buy these turnips. Here's the thing about these turnips. In this game, when you acquire stuff, which, once again, let me remind you, everything in this game is about buying, like, acquiring stuff. That's all it is. The whole point of the game is, like, getting cool stuff. So, normally, you can store stuff either in your pockets, or you can plant fruit, and then they'll turn into trees or flowers or something like that. Or, for some bizarre reason, you can plant money, and it'll grow a money tree. Oh, the currency is bells, for reasons we don't understand. Normally, you can put stuff in storage in your house. So you can take stuff back to your house and you can throw it in your house. And one of the reasons you want to do that is that other people can come visit your island. Problem is, people that visit your island can pick anything they want up off the ground, but they can't steal stuff out of your house. But they can just steal anything they want off the ground. People can only come visit your island if you list them on your friends list. So presumably you wouldn't have mean people come visit your island. They have to have a code to come visit your island and steal your stuff. However, you can't really leave all of your turnips out on the ground. But anything else you can put into storage in your house, and it kind of like disappears in your house. Turnips are the one thing that you can't put in storage. So most people end up just making a room to store all their turnips in. Cool. Because you can't put them in your pockets. you can't grow more turnip trees like you can with other things that you bury, because you can often bury things and then just like come back and get them later. Can't do that with turnips. And you can't eat them. They don't like, your character does not eat turnips. So they have only one purpose, which is to sell to the tiny children raccoons that run the store at a profit so that you get more money. So you take your turnips to these little trash pandas and you say, hey, what are you selling the turnips for? However, you can't immediately sell them. You can only buy them on Sunday morning, but Sunday is the one day of the week that they do not buy turnips. They also are only open at their store between like 8 a.m. and 10 p.m. And turnip prices change once a day. So in the morning, turnips sell for a different price than they do in the afternoon. Generally, the goal is, just the same as it is in the regular stock market. Buy low, sell high. Unlike stocks, these assets die. So the turnips rot by the following Sunday. So they only last a week. And if you like this is what's really nuts about this, the whole stock market. If you can time travel in this game, but if you backwards time travel, your turnips immediately rot. You can forward time travel and your turnips won't rot. Some people time travel in the game, which is utilizing some loopholes in the game, but you can time travel in the game. And some people do that because the bank accounts for the bells actually do gain interest. So you can go way ahead in the future and get a ton of interest. They also had an interest rate drop this week in the game. So, but every day there's a different price for these turnips. Oh, yes, we have a screenshot of them reducing the interest on these accounts. All right, so are we following this thus far? Ashley says, I have not started messing around with the stock market yet, and this is hilarious. I mean, this is what I love about this game is that I don't actually, just to be clear, I do not play this game. I have seen it in my house, and also have interviewed a bunch of people about the game and done a bunch of research on it, but it's just hilarious because the whole thing is a modeling of capitalism, but in this like really microscopic way, the entire game. But the stock market in particular is super fascinating because, as Ashley has discovered, you don't have to play the stock market. And I think one of the best lessons to take away from this is that if it stresses you out, you can just ignore it. You don't have to play the stock market. Just the same is as if the general stock market stresses you out. You don't need to be a day trader. So the whole thing with Animal Crossing stock market is that everything in the economy is being a day trader. So a day trader is where you have short buy and sell times, right? So you'll try to see. Actually, we saw it this week with Zoom stock of all things. Zoom stock has been going up obviously a ton since the pandemic started because everybody's been using it. And Zoom stock, some people were day trading it and it very quickly dropped. I like how we got a Zoom stock. So it very quickly dropped this week because Facebook announced that they were essentially implementing a feature similar to Zoom. And, a lot of the reasons that it went up is because suddenly Zoom was kind of the leading technology for doing a lot of social distancing stuff. And so we saw a lot of day trading happening with Zoom. Quite often, when the market moves, it will move around stocks in microscopic ways, but you can see an overall trend, which is why we hear things like the Dow Jones Industrial Average fell. Dow Jones, did you notice Sow Jones, Dow Jones? Yes, it's very clever, just like Sally Mae. The Dow Jones is actually, I shouldn't use that as an example because it actually only has 30 stocks in it, versus something like the S&P 500, which has all the stocks in it. Okay, so Aaron's like, you can eat the turnips, but it'd be a very expensive meal. I think the turnips are not actually edible in the game. Okay, apparently they are edible. So, yes, they're very expensive compared to, like, I don't know, shaking a tree and getting an apple for free, which is what you can do otherwise to get food. So you're buying these turnips, and you need to figure out a good time during the week to sell them. And the price changes twice a day in the game, and they don't buy on Sundays. And the turnips go dead within a week. So you've got essentially 5 days from the day that you buy the turnips, 6 days from the day that you buy the turnips, where you need to go and sell to these tiny little trash pandas. But here's the thing. Remember how I said you can visit other people's islands? Well, this is the really excellent thing about it. When you visit other people's islands, you can go sell stuff at their stores to their trash pandas. And the market doesn't move it doesn't move the same on everyone else's island. The only thing to know is that everyone's island is based on their time zone. So if you have a bunch of friends that are playing this game is best, like, it's more fun if you have other people in the game, other people that are playing the game, and you go visit their islands, because people have different native fruits and on their islands, and they look different. And it's a little bit like SimCity, where you're like constructing a city as you go a little bit. So everybody's island is a little different, and it's not a social game, so to speak, because you're not competing against anyone else. But man, there are some crypto boys playing Animal Crossing that really do think you can compete in Animal Crossing, but it's not actually a competitive game, despite being capitalism. It's theoretically a game that everyone can win. Everyone just has to have different goals. So whatever, and that's why for a lot of people, the goal is like, I collect all the things having to do with space, right? Or like, I only want to build modern transportation infrastructure on my island, and that's all I care about with, or whatever. Or I want all the cat-themed items. But to get into someone else's island, you need to have what's called their Dodo code, because you fly there on a Dodo bird airline. Everything is so weird in this game. It's great. I appreciate their commitment to mimicking the real world in ways that are just a little ridiculous. So the way you fly places, the pilot on the plane is a Dodo bird. And you get to the island, and you have to have their Dodo code to get in. But what's happened is a lot of people have formed spreadsheets or Slack groups, or there are even just large websites now where people can post publicly in the morning and the afternoon, because they change at noon, whatever your local time is, what the price that turnips are selling for at your store is. But everything went further. So the game claims, Nintendo, that's the maker of the game, they claim that it's truly random, and that the prices in the turnips are truly random. That being said, it is a computer game, so there is some kind of algorithm behind it. But they say that it's essentially a randomized process. That has not stopped people with the power of cryptocurrency and all of the prediction algorithms they possibly can to try to figure out how to predict your turnip prices. So they actually try to look and see when turnip prices are going to peak on your island. And quite a lot of people are conspiring together to post whatever their turnip prices are going to be for the week on their island. And a lot of people will see, oh, I'm going to have a spike on Wednesday, or, oh, I'm going to have a spike on Tuesday. And obviously it's only a percentage, because they don't actually know that. You don't get this forward information, just like you don't in the real market. You get the best guess. So it's just the same as, oh, I don't know, seeing someone on the TV that says, hey, the stock is going to go up. It does the same thing to the markets. So a lot of people will just go to their friends' islands, and you can give people, I think, money, which are called bells in this game. But what most people do is they say, hey, bring me gifts. So a lot of people will have different things on their islands. And if you have your friend and your friend says, hey, I really want some red tulip bulbs or something like that. I don't know. Aaron, what's an example of something you want in this game? Tulip bulbs. Okay. Aaron's building a really intense flower situation on his island. So you can go to your friend's island and you can just drop stuff on the ground, because that's how everything works in this game, and then they can pick it up. And that can be like a gift if they've got a really good turnip price. So the turnip prices that they buy at, you could end up selling them at a loss, which you could end up selling your turnips to the trash pandas for 50. And when you had, $100 or 100, you bought them at 100. So you could end up taking a 50% loss on it. Or you could end up making a ton of money. If it's around 6 times that they're buying it for, like 600 bells is like the very high end, like 600, 621 is the very high end. And then you'll try to get rid of all of them. The thing is, you have to spend actual bell money on these turnips, right? So you have to have enough turnip money in order to buy all your bells. There's also a whole thing about mortgages in this game where technically your house is mortgaged by Tom Nook, the raccoon that runs the island, whose children run the store, or his, I don't know, cousins or something. So you do technically have a mortgage, although it's an interest-free mortgage that you can pay off whenever you want. And there's no like pressure to pay it off, but you can't expand your house until you pay it off. So it's like weird. It's kind of a Sharia compliant mortgage while like also being combined with like a line of credit and that you like can't expand it until you pay it off. I don't know. It's kind of a weird. I've been looking for the real life application lessons around mortgages in Animal Crossing, but I haven't found them yet. So what has been happening, though, is that there's these huge online communities where people are either, one, lying about what the price is in their store to get people to come to their island and bring them gifts. So if they have a really high price, they might advertise it online, and then people will get their Dodo code, fly to the island, and bring them something. So technically, they don't make a profit when you sell at their store, but they can say, hey, you need to pay me something. Quite a few people have had their friends come be bouncers on their islands, which was one of the pictures that was put up there. And they say, here's where you have to donate. This is what you need to donate in the game. And they'll actually construct fences that essentially prevent you from going to the rest of the island. And you cannot pass through when you arrive at the island from the airport. So it's, I don't know, it's very fascinating to just see what this is. So the whole reason that people want to make money in this game is they want to pay off their mortgage and buy a bigger house. It is 100% the American dream. And 2, although the American dream would be to actually just roll it into a bigger mortgage, but you can't do that in this game for some reason. This game is also made by Nintendo, so there's a lot of things that are extremely Japanese about it. Like, for example, they seem to think a traditional Easter meal involves sushi and a picnic. But mortgages are actually quite different in Japan. Mortgages are only on the house, and usually the land is essentially done in a different kind of process. And so I think that may kind of influence some of the capitalistic models in this game. But that's a thesis I need to explore further before I can really dive deep into it. But some people are lying. People are editing screenshots showing how much turnips are being sold for. And essentially people are coming to their island. And the thing is, only one person at a time can sell turnips in the store. And the transaction takes a long time, like a lot of things in this game, where they actually have to just like talk to every single person has to like come bring all their turnips, dump all their turnips. And if you're someone who's really engaged in turnip trading, your pockets might not be big enough to store all the turnips. And some people have to fly home and then fly back to the island and wait in line again. And so there's these long queues where people have like these like really intense fences around their island leading up to their store for people to sell turnips off. That being said, a lot of people are billionaires, because it is bells is the currency in the game, from making a lot of money in the turnip world. Okay, what other things should we say about this? Oh, weird other things that happen. So remember how I mentioned the turnips rot? One, a lot of people have been losing money from discovering that if you backwards time travel, you lose all your turnips. Quite a lot of people have been buying all of the turnips with their bells, and then they end up losing half of the money that they have. And some people lose everything because all of their turnips rot, and then they have to go shake more trees to earn more bells, which can be a long, slow, grueling process. There's also been a rise of sugar daddies and sugar mamas in this game, of people providing bells to other people in exchange for real life conversation. And, you know, people will do it to buy things in this game. Anyway, it's very weird. This is the reason that this game it was a popular game before, but the new release coming out when the whole world was on lockdown. Kenna asks why on earth you would need 1 billion bells in Animal Crossing. Hello, obviously you want to build all of the robots. So I think one of the things you can do is build a bunch of space stuff in the game. I don't think you can actually go to space with it, but it looks cool on your island. So, you can need 1 billion bells. Also, maybe you want to build the biggest house ever. Most people that are very involved in turnip trading have to build an entire room in their house for storing turnips. And because the turnips also, you can't just put them in a stack. They all have to be like everything in the game placed a certain amount of distance away from one another. So people just have these insane places full of turnips. So one interesting thing that can result from turnips going bad is there are some kind of bugs you can get in the game that you can only go get when turnips go bad. So, if your turnips happen to rot, there's one thing that you can do, which is invite all of your friends over to bring you gifts in exchange for turnips that have rotted, because they will be able to get ants, which you otherwise cannot acquire in the game. So, Ashley says to buy crowns. Yeah, I mean, obviously, how else are you going to be able to buy tiny donut hats unless you're a billionaire? I don't know. There's a lot of people who love building infrastructure in the game, and like bridges are really expensive. So I guess, I mean, I think it's the same as being a billionaire on Earth. No one really needs it. That doesn't mean people don't want to be it. Like, there's an upper limit to which money ceases to make any sense to improve someone's life. But the kind of people that are drawn to doing really aggressive trading in the stock market are often the same kind of people that fancy that they're going to be billionaires one day in the real world. So Claire says, why would you want ants? Oh, Claire, you want ants because you can donate them to the museum that an owl runs, and then they'll be displayed in the museum on your island, obviously. I love that I don't play this game, and I know all of this about the game because, well, I don't know if you noticed, most of the internet's been very bored, and this is all that's been on Twitter, and also I did reporting on this first show. So, yes, obviously, Kenna. And the ants, I think some people also want to sell them. So you can sell anything. It's not just turnips you can sell to the tiny trash pandas. They even make fun of it in the game. Like, they can sell literally anything in the game to the trash pandas. And they like make fun of the fact that these children that are running this store obviously shouldn't accept everything, because you could just hand them clumps of weeds and they'll pay you money for it, which doesn't make a lot of sense. But you could sell the ants if you don't want to donate it to Blathers, the owl that runs the museum. He really hates bugs, though, but he still accepts them as donations. He complains about bugs every single time, though. All right. Last thing, I want to talk about market panics in the stock market. So, who knows what a selling panic is? So a selling panic is essentially when investors get scared by something and they start selling off at a very rapid rate. There was a selling panic that obviously happened right before the Great Depression. And that was the biggest dip in the stock market until now. And that's when people just start panic selling. And a lot of, there was also a panic sell that happened during the Great Recession in the US. And there has often been them when oil prices or gold fluctuates in a huge way. So selling panic can happen for just an individual stock, or they can happen for a market as a whole. And it's very easy in this game because the market and an individual stock are the same thing. There's only one thing in this market. You can only sell turnips. But the turnips, do rot after a couple days, and similar to the real market, you don't have information about what the market is going to do. You don't really necessarily know if they're going to be higher tomorrow. People are trying to model it, but they don't necessarily know. They just have like an idea and a percentage. And And you could theoretically go to another island and it might be selling for a different amount. But what happened this week is, what if you anticipate the only day that you're going to make a profit? So you've been buying and holding all of your turnips and you expect a large spike. So a lot of these models showed that everybody was going to have a huge spike on Wednesday. That was what a ton of people's modeling was showing, was that there was going to be really big spikes on Wednesday, and they'd been holding out. And then they found out late Tuesday night that the store that buys them was going to be closed due to an upgrade. So what happened was, essentially we had mass market panic, because if the stores were all closed on every island, no one was going to be able to sell. And when you have panic selling, or essentially a market panic, then what happens is that people are selling off assets in mass in no regard to the price that they bought it in. So you see this with people wanting to get rid of toxic mortgages, or just any mortgage, or this freak out that it's going to drop a bunch lower, so they need to sell. So we have, in almost all markets in the world, what are called circuit breakers. So you may have heard the S&P 500, which is a stock market index made up of the largest 500 stocks in the New York Stock Exchange. But you might hear like the S&P 500 dropped until and trading had to halt due to the circuit breakers. And what that means is, if enough people are panicking and selling off, then they halt trading. And the idea there is that you want the markets to act in a rational way. You want them to mirror the actual value of something, right? Like, theoretically, you're not selling stocks and assets just because they're stocks and assets. You're selling them because they represent part of a company, and they're supposed to represent the actual value of that asset. However, if you've got panic buying and selling, people are selling in response to what they feel like is going to happen to the market as a whole, or they're essentially not working off real information. They're working off what Keynes called the animal spirits, which is very funny because we're talking about Animal Crossing. But the animal spirits are our feelings about how the market is going. And in real essence, animal spirits are truly what drives the market. If consumers and investors are optimistic about where things are going to go in the future, we spend money, we buy stocks. If we're pessimistic, we start to get concerned, we start trying to sell off assets before it drops too much, or we don't buy, and then money is not invested in the economy. So we have these circuit breakers in place so that investors have time to respond to the information. And circuit breakers went into effect on every market on Earth at some point in the past 2 months, because essentially we had massive sell-offs happening on March 11th and March 13th. In the US, at least, it happened different days on different markets. Although we are such a globalized society that most markets in the world do move roughly in accords with one another. But what I love about this, what I love about the stock market in Animal Crossing versus the stock market in the real world, is that the markets respond to information in other markets, but they're on different time zones. So just like if you have a friend in Japan on Animal Crossing, they are going to have their markets open 13 hours before you, or 16 hours before you if you're on the West Coast of the United States. You will have information about what's happening in Animal Crossing stock market. Like, you're going to hear ahead of time, oh my gosh, all the stores are going to be closed on Wednesday. You're going to hear that ahead of time, and your market, the second that it opens in your Animal Crossing or your real life stock market, is going to respond to information from Japan. Does that make sense? And so all the markets are kind of linked in the same way. Anyway, I am delighted by that, because I think it's very interesting to see, because they do technically move individually, right? Like, every island has their own prices, but largely some part of behavior of people in the game, and queuing to sell turnips, or freaking out and everybody selling off their turnips at a loss because they're worried that the store is going to be closed for the rest of the week. That is exactly what happens in the general markets. So, yeah, we had our first market panic this week. I think that's pretty much it. Does anybody have any questions about Animal Crossing economics? I am by no means an expert on the Animal Crossing game, but I wouldn't even also say I'm an expert on the stock market, but, you know, I'm trained in one and have been doing journalism in the other. Does anybody have any questions about anything that happens in the stock market? So you could also theoretically have, you could use a, you know, I don't know, a stockbroker. You could have an outside agent that's buying turnips for you, because theoretically, if on another island, Sally Mae is selling at a very low price, you could have your friend buy more turnips. But I think you can't send bells in the game, so the only way would be to reward them with actual stuff. So, yeah. I don't know. Very fascinating. Clean up the island by weeding. A community service incentive. I guess it is a community service incentive that they buy weeds in the store, I guess. We need 2 more people to show up because we're at 48 views for this live stream. And I said 50 was the max at which I was going to give $5 a person. So if we get 2 more people, then we get $10 more. How are we doing on the thermometer? Can we put it on the screen? I feel like we've definitely gone over an hour now. So this has been a long live stream. I just got so excited about how it mirrors. Woo! That we got $20 more since last time. Thank you. If whoever donated that is on this live stream, very exciting. If Nina still happens to be on this live stream, you can donate. You have access to my back end card for this. Wait, I have a different card I want to use it on. Never mind. I was going to tell Nina to just add the donation so it shows up on the screen, but yeah, but you don't have the right card for me to make a donation. Oh, I see what you mean. Yes. Yeah, we can up the final donation for whatever 48 times. What is that? 240. That's 240. I know how to do math. I'm great at math. My partner says you can drop bells, so you could potentially pay in bells. Oh, yes, that is true. Yeah, you can drop like bags full of bells, which look like money bags, but they're called bells. But did you know that if you get 10,000 bells, you can just bury them and then you get a tree that gives you more bells? It's very weird. Nina says there are security measures. I can artificially add it. That's good. I mean, I'm glad you can. I think Aaron just added it though. So yes, look at that. We're at 43,263. Woot! That's very exciting. And I think I'll just keep going until we get 2 more viewers, and then we'll say we're done for the night. I would love to hear about how people's week are going. We can just do a little casual chat for the last couple minutes here. I already ate my donut. This would normally be the point at which I eat the end of the donut, but I ate it all in one go this time, so I don't have anything to do to vamp while we hang out. I didn't really tweet out again, so I feel like we're probably not going to get 2 more viewers. Also, I'm not talking about anything anymore, but how are people doing this week? Did anybody get their stimulus money now since the last live stream that hadn't before? I think it was Amanda said the rest is going to a car repair. It seems like overwhelmingly people are using it on very practical stuff. I know a lot of people that feel like they should be spending it, but there's no right way to use it if you got it. So in the US, it's like $1,200. Freelancers for a lot of people, it was high. It was like 5 or 10,000 euros. The freelancer support that happened in Germany, which is like a lot more practical. They are not one of the countries that opened up unemployment, or as it's called in the UK, universal credit to freelancers and self-employed people. So I think it was nice that they did. Essentially, it's loan cash support that is theoretically going to be forgiven. So yeah, it's a lot of support for folks. I asked people if they were spending more or less in quarantine. And overwhelmingly, everybody said they were spending less, which is very funny to me because I'm spending more. But I think, yeah, these are all the people that said they're spending less when I was like, oh, are you spending more or less? Well, I had just the day before been in a very extended argument on Twitter where someone had said, if you're not spending less in quarantine or in lockdown, then you need to look at your finances. There's no excuse that you shouldn't be. And I was like, I obviously am. Like, the one sole person who said something else on Instagram said, I'm spending more on takeout for my favorite places that I want to stick around. And that's the same for me. Like, I bought donut hats. I bought silly jumpsuits from trying to support small businesses. I never get takeout or go to restaurants other than getting donuts for this live stream. Pretty much is the only food that I get out, which is a business expense for me. And I normally, the only time I eat out is when I travel for work, which obviously I'm not doing for the foreseeable future. But I've been buying takeout because I want to support local places. And I also I'm, donating a lot more to charity and stuff like that. But the big thing for me is that groceries went up so much. When you can't comparison shop, you can't do anything, when you're trying to limit the amount of trips to the grocery store. And I'm one of those people, I can't even go for myself because I'm immunosuppressed. So I'm stuck here. So, yeah. Claire says, I don't have a deposit date, but it does say I'm getting it now. Yeah, if you are in the US and you have not previously gotten it and you were getting a very annoying error, like payment status not available from the IRS, they fix stuff on Friday. So it is worth trying to use the Get My Payment feature on the IRS website on Friday. A lot more people were able to use it. They fixed a lot of the technical problems, and it might give you better information and or allow you to actually update your bank account now. So if you still haven't gotten your stimulus and you think you qualify, you should go back to the IRS website and check it out. It didn't work for everyone, but I had like 90% of the people that said it didn't work before. It's now working for them. Amanda said, I spent more too, but mostly on stocking up stuff like toilet paper or meat from the local butcher. Yeah, someone said, I liked this. I don't remember who it was. I think it was someone on the Oh My Dollar forums, but said that they said that, like, of course I'm spending more. I used to poop at work for free. But someone else on Twitter was pointing out that, like, the amount more that you're paying for toilet paper, like, if you have 500% inflation on toilet paper, of course you're going to be spending more. I'm spending so much more on groceries right now. I'm spending like $40 plus more a month. Like on average, I spend $125 to $140 a month, and I'm going to be way over $160 this month, for sure. And some of it is like, most of it isn't stress buying because obviously I can't just like run out. Ooh, we lost one of our lights. It's trying to tell me we're done. I can't just like run out and like get impulse treats from Trader Joe's or the donut shop anymore. But yeah, at the same time, groceries are just more expensive. A lot of the stuff that used to be cheap is gone now. So Scott said, I have 32 rolls of Charmin coming on Monday, as does Ashley. Oh no. Denise said, my emotional spending has gone up 1,000-fold. Yeah, that's the big thing for me is that like I am spending more impulsively. Like I said I'm buying all the stuff from small businesses, but on Wednesday I just got in a mood and I just bought a really comfortable jumpsuit from Target, and it came on Friday and I don't regret it at all. I've spent most of the past 48 hours wearing it and it's great. I did dress up for you for this live stream, but I'm going to be putting that jumpsuit back on as soon as we're off. And that was definitely emotional spending. I just kind of felt like I keep moving in waves. They say we're all kind of experiencing grief over this. And mine keeps coming in waves. So like, I feel like everything is normal because in many ways my life hasn't changed a lot because I could work from home before. I mean, there's some obvious ways in which it has. But I keep realizing that for me, this might be another like 6 to 12 months of not really being able to go back to normal life, so to speak, or even maybe leave the house for me. And that like every time I kind of realize that I have another, I want to buy things because it's something I can just solve right now. I have this like moment of like, oh, I should just buy stuff because that'll feel better. Oh, we're at 50 viewers. We got some more viewers, which means that I will donate $10 more. We're up $10 more. Claire said, but it's probably not just the pandemic. We got our tax refund last month. Oh, yeah. We're spending a lot more this month. A lot of it is helping out small businesses and also getting CSA for the first time in a few years. But that doesn't explain all the spending. And Ashley said butter and eggs are so much more expensive. Sarah said, I think groceries went up 50%. Is it really 50%? You're in Canada, right? But I didn't need to buy coffees for various informal work discussions or informational chats with students or career changes. Sarah, where are you at that you feel like, is it your groceries went up or do you feel like general inflation went up by groceries? Yeah, I do appreciate not having to spend coffee just to have meetings with people anymore. But I also feel like I used to maybe like go out for coffees because I didn't want to have meetings in my like office or my house. And I have no qualms anymore when it gets back to normal, quote unquote. I don't think it's really going to get back to normal, so to speak. But like once I can like go to my office again, I'm going to invite everybody to my office. I am so ready to utilize that space that we're spending a bunch of money on, that no one is. One of my jobs had just moved into a gorgeous office space with like private meeting rooms when we used to all be crammed around like one large table that was in the same room as everything else. And we did that like a week before lockdown. And I just feel like, oh, we're spending so much more money for this. Denise says that is a big part of my spending impulse. I'm also looking at 12 to 18 months of isolation, and sometimes having pretty clothes makes the idea more tolerable. Yeah, Denise, the funny thing for me is that I also am in the same category of like clothes are a lot of my impulse spending. It's not even that I buy a lot of clothes, but I think about buying, like it sucks up all of my internet shopping energy. Like I could at any given time just go browse like stupid clothes I do not need, like gothic Lolita dresses covered in like tiny cats wearing priest collars or whatever weird pattern they have. And none of them are remotely practical for a life where I'm isolating for the next 12 months. But I get some kind of endorphin relief off of it. It's definitely like the thing that I want to buy as my own like personal relief. So Claire says March was more a normal spending month. I missed the one before that, unfortunately. Camille says, I'm spending more now, so much more on groceries. I spent $30 on 2 burritos and donuts. Yeah, one thing for me is I am not someone who goes out to eat, and I forgot how expensive going out to eat is. And even though I'm only just getting delivery or takeout, I am like, oh my God, you can spend $30 on food for 2 people, which I know is like very low for other people, but I when I go out to eat, it'll be to get like a $5 burrito with a $2 tip or something. And I am just like I just keep being blown away by like me trying to be like, yes, I'm going to support my local businesses for takeout. And then I'm like, oh, yes, this is why I don't spend money eating out. And I think in some ways I've been a little insulated because I tend to only eat out when I travel. And when I travel, it's either like a business expense, and I still tend to go for like pretty cheap restaurants, even when it's on business travel. It still comes out of my own budget, out of my personal finance supporters or my patrons. Thank you so much. You're like half my income and currently almost 100% of my income for my business, because ain't nobody buying books in retail shops right now, or paying me to go speak at conferences. Anyway, like that, it's still my money, but I'm a little more dull to it because it doesn't affect my personal budget as much. So yeah, Denise says your pretty clothes are way more satisfying than mine. Well, thanks. I mean, this was not a small business purchase, but it was a used sweatshirt on Poshmark. And as soon as I saw it pop up, I was like, gotta have it for a live stream. I don't think I'm going to try to justify this one as a business expense, even though I feel like I could really try with the IRS. Like, it's like donuts and cats. I've worn it on video. It's obviously related to my business, but it does have technically Pusheen branding and not Oh My Dollar branding on it. All I need to do is make a sweater that is covered in Oh My Dollar cats. Do you think I could, like, let's see. Where? Yeah, I need, like, these cats on a sweatshirt. That would be really great. I actually really I wanted to do a holiday sweater that was like bright colors like this, not like Christmas colors, because I don't celebrate Christmas, so I don't want that. But I wanted like a really exciting holiday sweater with like Omedeller cats on it. And I was going to do it for this like upcoming end of year season. But I think this is probably not the year to sell people useless stuff online or like pretty clothes. Like, I don't feel like it's probably the best use of my design things. Amanda says, I'm not ready to have to get up at 6 a.m. on Saturday to go to the grocery store to beat crowds. Yeah. Are you? So, Amanda, I'm fairly certain you are not of the senior age that can shop. Are you shopping with someone else in your household that's old enough to go to the senior hour? Or do you just need to get up at 6 a.m. to like make it when it opens early? Or maybe they're not doing senior hour in your area, but that's what a lot of people have been doing at ours. Yeah, Sarah said our groceries went up. We bought some things ahead of time. 2 peanut butters instead of having one in the pantry, but also not as many sales. Plus my SO buy things to make me feel better. Yeah, I've had a little bit of the like, because I'm not able to buy stuff myself. Sometimes things come home that make me happy and I'm really pleased. But I have also been using that as a way to be like, I want candy. And then like, by the time Aaron leaves the house being like, no, actually don't get me candy. I don't need it. If it's not in the house, I can't go out and get it. So I just won't eat it. So Amanda says I do it on non-senior days. Oh, here they've been doing like the hour before the grocery store opens. That makes sense. Ashley said some do seniors and immunocompromised times. Okay, we've now lost both lights. So it might be time to be done. Yeah, I think that we had, my dad just became old enough to do the senior shopping times like this year because my parents are super young because they had me very young. So they're like a lot younger than most other people my age's parents, at least in my experience. But my dad just became old enough, but he's been shopping for both my mom and I, who are both immunocompromised. So he's like, whatever, I'll go during the early day. And even though most grocery stores have like completely given up on sales, some of them are still doing Veterans Day sales. So one of the really expensive grocery stores, bougie grocery stores here, does Veteran Day sale. And both my parents are veterans. So he's been doing like a group shop at that grocery store on Veteran Day, which has been really great. I saw it went up again. I don't know if that's because it got upgraded because there's more people. We had 55 viewers, so maybe I'll top that off a little bit more. Yeah, I think my cat does want attention now. All right. Well, thank you all for coming and joining and staying for an extra long live stream today, talking about the stock market. It's nice to like see you all on the internet. I think we are going to switch to doing these every week. We were doing them every other week. But I feel like as long as we're in quarantine, might as well do it every week. So we'll probably do it again, next Saturday, US time, or Sunday morning for the Australians. I haven't worked out if it's going to be at 2 or 5 Pacific, simply because I've been trying to alternate times because you either screw over Europe or you screw over Western Australia. So it's nice to alternate so that only one gets screwed over. Anyway, it's lovely to see you all. Stay hydrated. Eat some donuts, wash your hands, and stay safe. I'll see you soon.